The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation, make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels, operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Spokane Fire Department, on your new apparatus, job number 29547. Please utilize this job number when referencing your vehicle with Hughes Fire Equipment. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus, starting with the front bumper. On the passenger side, on the bumper face, there is an electronic siren. Moving inward, there is going to be 2 air horns on the right and left side. Moving up onto the top of the bumper, there is an 1.5-inch discharge port. Just inside in the center, there is a tub well for hose storage. Moving up onto the body on the outer edges, these are your right and left turn arrows. Moving just inward of that location is the headlight cluster. The outer cluster is going to be your low beam headlight, and the inner cluster will be your high beam. Moving just in the center, in the grill area, this is going to be in a mechanical siren. Moving up onto the top of the body area, this is going to be a warning light on the right and left hand side. Just above that, you have 2 windshield wipers. Moving up from that location to the outer edges, you have a convex mirror which is heated, and just move up from that location there on the outer portion, this is a flat mirror that is also heated. Let's move up to the top of the brow. There are 5 running lights. Moving inward, there are 2 fixed forward-facing floodlights on the right and left-hand side. Across the very top, this is going to be your warning light bar. And mounted directly in the center of that light bar is an opticom. Let's go ahead and look back underneath the front of the front bumper. There are 2 attachments points here. These are closed tow hooks. Also a discharge port for that 1.5-inch discharge mounted on the bumper. This is going to be that hose that runs the primary line to that 1.5-inch discharge port. And on the very far side here in blue, this is going to be your windshield wiper fluid. A couple of generalized views here. On the side of your bumper, you have a warning light on both right and left side. On the outer edge of the headlight cluster near the turn signal, there is also a marker light. Here are some generalized views of your apparatus. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the details after a few of these slides to give you some sense of where things are located. Your apparatus is equipped with locking door locks. They are keyed. You can see the front and rear on both right and left side have keyed door locks. Let's go ahead and look a little bit further down. Let's talk about some of the wheels and tires here on your apparatus. Your vehicle has been outfitted with Goodyear G296 MSA tires. In the center in the hub, you have a Stemco hub view seal. This allows you to gain access so you can view the fluid level with inside that hub. Front and back of the front tire, you're going to have a step. There is also step lights in both the lower section and in the upper section in the well. Let's take a look at the side of your apparatus. You have an emergency warning light at the lower section of the cab. Moving up to the upper section, this is going to be your water indicator for your tank level. And moving to the very top, this is going to be the left scene light, and it's just the opposite on the passenger side. Generalized view of the side of your apparatus. There are two sections of hose storage on your apparatus behind the netting. Let's talk a little bit about those. First, you have a number 1 crosslay, which is foam accessible. There is also a dead load located in the center. I'd like to direct your attention to the small lever located in the center here. This is to gain access to pulling out your speed loads. There's also a warning label in regards to entanglement hazards with your hose. And on the very far right-hand side, this is going to be your number 2 crosslay, which is also foam accessible. Once the meshing has been removed or the buckle loosened, you can remove the lower section, which then allows you to gain access to moving the top section. That was the lower section of hose that we saw there. Let's go ahead and move up now to the upper section of hose locations at the very top. Located in the very top section, there are 2 bundles. This is the number 3 crosslay and number 4 crosslay. In the center, this is going to be that same latch which allows you to gain access to pulling out that speed load. This is an image of those loads in the open position or ajar position. You also have board storage in the upper section in the very front of the cab area. This is going to be an image of the side of your pump panel, but let's direct your attention toward the step down at the very bottom. Currently in its configuration, it is folded. To open that step, go ahead and just pull on this black retainer clip. Once the clip has been detached, you can then unfold the step, creating a larger surface area for you to stand on. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of those components on your pump panel in this area. First, let's start in the upper left-hand corner. All of your pump controls are color-coded. This is going to be your number 1 discharge, and this is going to be a tank fill for direct tank fill. Just up above that, you can see this is a drain for that tank fill. Let's move to the right-hand side of that. There's going to be a warning label indication of looking directly into the eye of the pump and be cautious. On the right-hand side here, behind the American flag and eagle, this is going to be your large diameter intake. Moving to the upper right-hand side, this is your foam, intake, strainer, drain. Moving just beneath that, this is going to be your foam B fill location, but this is a drain. Just beneath that is the foam B fill. Let's move all the way to the opposite side of this panel, and let's start here. This is going to be your number 3 in orange discharge. It's a 2.5 inch, just as your number 1 is. This will be the drain for your purple number 1 discharge. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be a 2.5 inch intake. Let's go ahead and move all the way to the very bottom section here. These are going to be drains. You can tell by the lever design that was your number 3 discharge, and moving across the very bottom in black are additional drains or discharges. There are a couple close-up images of those areas we just talked about, and I'll let those roll through next. As you can see, there are 2 drains here, the pump drain and also your auxiliary drain. That's the one that's currently in the open position. Generalized view of the side of your apparatus, but let's take a look once again at the step on the underbody side near the pump area. This is going to be a perimeter light. Moving underneath that, you also have a completely enclosed pump housing. To access that, move the levers and pull the handle. This gains access to inside the pump area. This is going to be an air tank drain located on the tank itself. Here's a generalized view of the side of your controls for your pump panel, and we'll start with some of the direction on those and some of those individual components. Starting in the upper section here, this is going to be a light indicator that your pump is properly engaged. Moving down to the left-hand side, this is your pump overheat indicator. Moving just right of that, this is going to be your foam tank A. This will indicate the amount of foam in that tank, and just as to the right of that is foam tank B. Also, these are both just tank vision indicators that give you a supply amount. To the right of that, this is your panel gauge heater. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be your master intake. Moving to the right of that, there are 2 ports located in this section. This is your test ports. This is your vacuum and pressure test ports. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be your master discharge. We'll go ahead and move to the upper right-hand corner. This is an amber indicator that lights up when your PCM has fault. Just beneath that, there is an audible alarm. It is adjustable. And just beneath that, you also have an additional pump overheat indicator, which is going to be in an amber color light also. Let's take a generalized view of the next section down, and we'll talk a little bit about those components too. Let's go ahead and start on the very far left-hand side. You can see all of these have foam capabilities. Front discharge port, which is on the bumper. Number 1 crosslay in yellow. Number 2 crosslay in green. Number 3 crosslay in an orange color. Number 4 crosslay in a red color. And at the very far end, this is your real discharge, which is also foam compliant. All of these are levers that move up and down, and they also twist for locking those into position. This is going to be your Pierce governor. At the very top, if this is indicated, this is going to be your check engine light. In the center, there is a digital readout for your RPMs of the engine. Moving to the right-hand side, you have a stop engine indicator. Down beneath that, this is all information for diagnostic of your engine. There's water, oil, battery, fuel level, in addition with pump information. Moving down from that, this is your water tank on the apparatus for how much water you have from empty to full. You also have a silence button. Just beneath that, a menu button. And at the very bottom section here, just in the black area, you can choose the 2 options of either pressure control or RPM control. Just beneath that, there is your control module. OK to throttle. If it's ready to actually move the throttle, this light will be lit. And to the right-hand side in green, this is if you set up any presets for designated PSIs or throttle pressure. Just beneath that, this is going to be the wheel for increasing and decreasing the throttle. Let's go ahead and look on the upper right-hand side here. This is your minimum operation maintenance schedule. This is going to give you the information on the job number, in addition with your PSI at 150, 200, and 250, and the designated GPMs for those. On the other side, this is a front flood, driver's side, passenger side scene, an air horn, and 2 future locations. Let's move all the way across the top of the next set of panel. This is to access your CAFS system for all those individual discharge ports. Far right-hand side is your recirculating line. Real discharge drain. This is not a pull, this is a twist. Let's go ahead and look to the next section here in the blue. This is going to be your compressor for your Hercules CAFS system. This is the on-off switch. Just next down beneath that, you have your choice of either manually or in the auto mode for either one of those 2. Just beneath that, this is going to give you your airflow digitally, a readout for that. And as we move to the very far right-hand side of the same panel, this is going to give you an indication of the air pressure. Move down below that. This is going to be a high oil temperature light that will illuminate if you have high oil pressure or temperature. And then this is going to be the oil temperature in its actual readout. This is going to be your Pierce command center for controlling of your foam. This is where you turn it on, adjust the percentages. It also gives you a digital readout in that section. On the upper right-hand side, this is the driver rear discharge. And then on the very far right, this is your deluge discharge. Once again, these are not foam, but they are locking levers. Moving to the very far left-hand side of the panel, this is your tank fill. And just next to that is going to be your tank to pump valve. Moving down from this location directly in the center, these are going to be 2 Acron electronic valves. The first one here in blue is going to be a number 2 discharge. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be a large diameter discharge on the passenger side also, and it's in green. Moving to the right, your fire pump primer. Let's go ahead and move down to the next section here, which is on the side. This is going to be your foam systems instructions for your Husky 12 foam system. This is going to give you the maximum solution capabilities. There's a printed document on the side. I'd like you to refresh your memory on how this operates through the information guides. Generalized view of the lower section. This is predominantly going to be all drains. As you can see on the left, you have a main pump blowout, a front discharge blowout, and a reel discharge. All of the round are going to be a turn style, not a pull style. You have a manifold, primer, and a flush valve drain also in this location here. Moving down from this location, you can see that there are also discharge drains, slightly different type of a lever, but let's take a look at those. This is your CAF's air outlet. You can see at the very bottom, this is going to be your 1-inch inlet or outlet. All the way across the very bottom, you can see the color coding of those discharge drains. All the way to the very far right-hand side, this is an access door. Behind this access door is going to be your foam tank valve. This is currently in its position for operation, but if you want to fill, you'll move that valve to the upright position. Also, location of your manual pump shift override. Behind this red cover is the switch and an amber light indicating that you've selected the on power. Generalized view on this same compartment in the upper corner. We'll talk about that in the next set of images, but there are two pull-out slide drawers that fully come out. To gain access to those drawers, simply depress the lever here on the right-hand side. This will allow the locking mechanism to free itself and then will allow the drawers to pull to the outward position. Repeat the process to restore the drawers. At the very top of this compartment, you can see there's a shore outlet, 110 power, and this is going to be your onboard air compressor for your air brakes. Let's take a look at the generalized view of these compartments here, and then we'll start looking interior to those also. First, the compartment here, the horizontal compartment, is a 2-port door. First, access the first door, reach inside, you'll find a black lever that opens the second door. Once you've accessed that, you have full compartment space now. In this compartment, there is a fixed mounted shelf. Let's move to the section near the rear tires. In the very front, you're going to have bottle storage, in addition with bottle storage in a single door. But let's talk a little bit about some of those components here. In the blue, this is your DEF fill level. And just beneath that, this is going to be your diesel fill. Let's go ahead and move to the very back section of this compartment here that says smoke detectors save lives. And the very upper section of this compartment, you can see that there is a mounting shelf for tools. And in the lower section, there is a pull-out shelf. Same concept with the lever. Just beneath that, these are going to be your folding wheel chocks. Let's talk a little bit about the rear of the apparatus. On the left and right hand side, you have the cluster that houses the brake, turn, and also reverse. Just inward of that, this is going to be a warning or emergency light. And just near that same area, this is going to be a work light or step light. Just up from that location, this is your shore power to the rear, providing power to your entire apparatus. Moving up from that location, this is going to be a yellow warning or amber warning light. Just to the right-hand side, there are a set of switches here. We'll talk a little bit about those in the next set of images, but let's move up also. You have a 2.5-inch rear discharge port located here. On the outer edge of this, on the left side, you have a folding ladder that telescopes and slides in the downward position. There's also a tool compartment storage for long pole storage up above that. And at the very top of your ladder here, this is a warning light in addition with a step light. Let's go ahead and take a look at the very bottom section. You have two outer rollers to control hose for rolling out from this lower compartment. And as we move up from that, there's also a roll-up door which gains access to the upper section of your hose roller. At the very top, you have dividers, and those dividers are movable. On the very right-hand side, this is a fold-down step to gain access to the upper portions of those controls. And in the right-hand side here, or the passenger location, this is the storage of your long ladders. Up to the very top, the smaller compartment is the same layout as the opposite side for long tool storage. And then at the very top, you have a telescoping floodlight that raises up and down manually. Underneath the rear section of your apparatus, this is an attachment point or tow hook. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about those safety warning labels that are located on the rear of your apparatus. Please read these, they're for your personal safety. Looking at the very bottom section above the toe, this is going to be a fold-down compartment which is also accessible for a step, gains access to the rear compartment in addition to your red line or hose line here in the very back that's on the reel. On the left, you have hose bed lights and also rear scene lights, just as you do on the opposite side for the pole light. Let's talk a little bit about the ladder. The ladder is currently in its stowed position. There are a variety of different latches. Be cautious of a pinching mechanism here as these ladders pull outward and slide downward. Some generalized views here in that small compartment here. This is going to be for long tool storage. You can see that you have a tool stored here. Moving to the opposite side, it's the same layout as it is on this side. You also have a step in this area, which also has a step light and grab rails, and the very top an emergency warning light, rear facing and side facing. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the components on the right-hand side. In this compartment, you're going to find your 24-foot extension ladder and a 14 roof. There is also the location that is just slightly above that, which mirrors the opposite side for long tool storage and a folding 10-foot attic or folding ladder. This is the mechanism to allow you to twist the nut, which will then allow you to gain access for telescoping this light up or down and locking it into position. It's currently in its fully extended position. The light switch is just on the right-hand side of the body underneath the warning light. Generalized view from the top of your apparatus here. You have a variety of different storage compartments on the right and on the left-hand side. These are all latched, illuminated compartments on both the right and the left-hand side. Moving just forward of this location, there's going to be the access point for filling of 3 tanks that you have on your apparatus. First, your water tank, which is not latched. Moving forward, this is going to be a latched foam A tank, and to the right of that, clearly identified, this is your foam B tank, which also has a locking mechanism. Let's move forward of that location. This is going to be your CAFS system, which is your onboard air compressor. Moving to the right of that, this is going to be your deluge. You also have an extended gun on this, and once your monitor is mounted on top, it will be able to elevate. This is a cooling fan for the CAFS system. General view from the front looking to the rear of your apparatus. Let's now move over to the side and take a look at some of these compartments and the components within. Starting in the very back, you also have in this compartment a 2-section door. Once the first door is open, gains access to fully access everything. At the very top, you have an additional attachment point and a pull-out drawer. Same concept. To open that drawer, the latch on the right-hand side, depress, will allow the shelf to move in the outward position. Once it's in the outward position, it will lock. Depress the latch to allow it to return back to its original position. We're now looking in the section where the rear wheel is. It's almost the same layout as the opposite side, but slightly different because it doesn't have the fuel locations. In the left and right, you have bottle storage locations, and also in those bottle storage locations are safety straps. Let's go ahead and take a look at this horizontal compartment. This is a tool board. This is an adjustable tool board. It's not fixed mounted. When it's in the open position, you can mount tools behind and also on the tool board, front and back of it. This is the mechanism to allow, when it's in the locked open position, to return it back to storage, lift the pin, which will allow you to move it upright. This is an important section here. This is a warning label indicating for your exhaust. It's at the lower section of the rear wheel, and please read this when parking your apparatus next to things that could be potentially flammable. Moving to the tall or vertical compartment in this location, you have considerable shelf storage. As you see in the very right-hand corner here where the arrow is indicating, this is going to be your cab lift. Simply depress the activate button to move, either lower or raise on your selected switch. Upper corner here in the same compartment, this is going to be a 20 amp shore power outlet. Next is a generalized view of the side of your apparatus. We'll talk a little bit about some of the components, but let's focus in on the module here for the pump. Same concept with the folding step as the driver's side, so I won't go too much into the review of that. This is displayed now in its full open position, and just underneath that location you can see this is the enclosure to house, fully complete and close your pump underside. Let's talk a little bit about some of the components here on your apparatus. In the upper left-hand corner is your your water strainer. Moving inward behind the American flag, this is going to be your large diameter pump intake. You can also see there's a warning label on the opposite side here of that intake. But let's talk a little bit about these two locations here, the overrides. These require tools. These are for your electronic valves. You can also see that the blue here is the 2.5-inch discharge port, and the very large section here in green, this is going to be a large diameter discharge. Those are those electronic valves we talked about earlier. On the left, this is going to be a auxiliary side or auxiliary inlet for the passenger side, a 2.5-inch. Just to the right of that location is your water strainer drain, and then at the very bottom here, these levers are going to be your passenger side auxiliary inlet. This is a drain, pump drain, large diameter passenger side, and also the number 2 discharge. Those are all drain valves. Same concept as the opposite side here of the driver. This is going to be that webbing that gains access to your crosslays. Generalized view of the apparatus on the passenger side. Let's talk a little about entrance of the apparatus here. In all the doors, you're going to find this warning label indicating for your safety and for seatbelt usage. This is going to be a step grab handle to pull yourself up into the cab. And once again, there is the warning label regarding the use of safety belts. On each of the doors, you're going to find that there is an electronic window control in addition with a handle and also a locking mechanism here. The red is going to be to open or unlock the door. Moving to the rear section here, this is going to be the driver's side looking inward, but let's start first in the driver's seat area. Same concept, all doors and all access points have these additional warning and safety labels. Let's take a look inside the cab. All of your seat belts are red. It's by design that you can be easily identifiable to see if you have your seatbelt on visually by seeing the red strap. Located on this seat, there is a variety of different controls. Those controls are located under the seat for adjustment of driver conveniences. You can see it's an air ride seat and also a lever to adjust the front and tilt of your seat. Let's talk about 2 warning labels here. There's a warning and a caution label here regarding diesel exhaust, but let's also look at the large yellow placard here. This is your information placard from Pierce. It houses your date of manufacture. It houses the job number located on this placard. It also houses your gross vehicle weight rating at 21092. Just down from this location, it offers tire size, rim size, cold tire inflation, and also your VIN number, which is also located on the A pillar of the driver's side. This is also information for your fluid capacities, the amount of fluid and the types of fluid for your apparatus. Let's start with some of the components. This is the battery on-off switch in red. Moving to the upper section here, these are your stationary OK to pump while rolling, water pump, foam, and CAF system activations. On the lower section of the floorboard, this is going to be your air horn. It's a foot pedal. And as we move to this section, once again, you can see this is the stationary OK to pump and roll. There's also a water pump, a foam system, and CAF switches. Let's go ahead and look just above that. This is your ignition switch. This is also next to it a start switch, a future location of a switch, which is indicated by spare, an auto lube fault, which is an indicator, not a switch, and also your mirror heat. Let's go ahead and take a look at the steering column itself. This is going to be the right and left turn signal in addition with flashing of your headlights. On the column itself, on the under section, these are your hazard lights. And on the column again, this is going to be the adjustment for driver comfort, for tilting, and also for extending and pushing down the steering column. On the right-hand side, about knee level, these are going to be your SRS transmission diagnostic, engine ABS diagnostic ports, and also the switches controlled with those. Those are ports for diagnostic information. From the operator's seat looking forward, you can see that the steering wheel is equipped with a front SRS system, which is an airbag system deployable in a front-end collision. Looking at the dash panel here, starting in the left-hand side, let's break down some of the components there. Starting in the lower left, this is going to be your oil pressure, water, trans, and voltage meters. Also your RPM or tachometer. On the right-hand side, speedometer, fuel level gauge, DEF level, front and rear air. Looking just to the right-hand side of the operator, you have a large cluster of switches. Let's break down some of those switches here in the next set of images. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, this is going to be your engine brake on-off switch. You also have an indicator for low, medium, high for the engine brake. Your DPF region switch. You also have a DPF region inhibit, which is the red switch, airbag, and off-road contraction device. Down to the next section down here, we have your headlights. You have a dimmer switch for the panel. You also have wipers, windshield wiper fluid, okay to engage the high idle, and your high idle switch. Moving into the upper right hand side, this is going to be your differential lock, an on-off switch, your differential activated. This is going to be an illuminated switch once that is activated. And then you have 4 switches across the next set for all your window controls. In the yellow square or diamond, this is your parking system brake. You pull to apply, push to release. This is going to be your Allison transmission pad. Moving down just to the right hand side here, you can see this is going to be your right and left mirror control. This is for that upper section of that mirror. Located just to the right of the operator, this is going to be your David Clark headset system. This is a push to talk in addition with headset volume. Just above that, these are your David Clark headsets. There is a right and left side here for passenger and driver. They also have their own individual control boxes. Let's go ahead and look overhead the operators section here. I'd like to direct your attention to the upper left-hand corner in this yellow placard. This placard is from the manufacturer indicating that the height of the vehicle is 9 feet 11, your length is 30 feet 8 1/4, and your gross vehicle weight rating is 23.25 tons. This is also a location of your job number here. Moving just to the right of that, this cluster houses the emergency master, your roof light, your front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, and upper rear warning. These are all light switches that illuminate when engaged. Let's go ahead and move just to the right of this location at the next set of switches here. This is going to house the white light cutout, which turns off your white lights in foggy conditions. This is also the location of your Opticom, perimeter lights, rear scene, a siren selector for siren or horn, and on the very far right in red, the siren brake for the mechanical siren. Moving further to the right over the operator's head, this is going to be a cluster of switches that control your lights for driver's side alley, driver's side scene, the front floods, rear flood, passenger side scene, and passenger side alley. Once again, all illumination lights here are switches that will indicate when the light is on. It will match the switch itself. Let's take a look overhead. We're indicating this is going to be your Pierce seatbelt information. To the right-hand side, this is going to be the layout of your apparatus forward facing here where the arrow is to indicate compartment doors ajar. And this is a very important. This is to indicate whether you have a compartment door prior to moving your apparatus. This will illuminate. Let's talk a little bit about some of those components here also. This is your PA system and your electronic siren. Moving overhead, this is the Pierce indication for seatbelts. Red indicates the seat is occupied and not buckled. Green indicates the seat is occupied but buckled. This is that indication for doors open or compartments open. Overhead, you have push on, push off, white and red lights. And let's move to once again to the very center section. There's that red light located here for compartments ajar. Generalized view over the passenger head, but let's look backwards now and look at the 2 rear-facing forward seats. You also have a fold-down seat and David Clark head systems above those seats. Let's go ahead and move outside of the cab, looking in from the driver's side. Once again, on the doors itself, there is the warning labels for safety. But let's look inside the cab here and look on both right and left-hand side. You have this compartment located behind the passenger and also behind the driver. This is a compartment that has illuminated lights. The switch is located just up on the top. Once it's open, you have the ability to mount shelving in here. But let's look on the very top. This is going to be your power max. This gives you 12-volt power to your apparatus. Located in the center, this is going to be an access door for engine components. This is where you can check your oil and transmission. It is also a lit compartment that has a switch on the inside to activate the light switch. Generalized view of the passenger side compartment here with the netting, and at the very top, once again, you can see this is the compartment light switch on both the right and left side. They're independently controlled. This operates the lights that are just inside this compartment. On both driver and passenger side of the vehicle, there are fresh air inlets. This is the location of that filter system here. On the right side, down at the lower section near the step, you're going to find a lever. This is for your front discharge. This is the drain for that front discharge. Let's go ahead and take a look from the driver's side looking into the cab, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the components in this area. First, let's talk a little bit about the seat itself is an air ride adjustable, and you can see just down at the very bottom section near the seat there are these red candy cane style warning labels. You might find these throughout the vehicle. These are warning labels indicating that there are wires located behind this access panel or in this area, to be cautious. Looking at the very bottom, you can see on the left-hand side, this is going to be your Engage for ride comfort. Your vehicle is also equipped with a supplemental restraint system on the passenger side. This is the label and the location of those. And you also have an electronic siren and a mechanical siren foot pedals at the base of the cab. On the right-hand side, you're also going to find the location for your, as it comes here in the next image, as your fluid for windshield wiper on the right-hand side here. And there's also an access panel which contains a significant amount of wiring here just beneath your SRS airbags. Let's go ahead and look up just above that. Once again, you'll find a glove box just above the SRS. The warning label is indicating that do not block this area for the airbag. It can be hazardous. Take that into consideration when mounting additional components near your apparatus SRS airbags. Just above that, you have a glove box and a pull handle just above that glove box. On the A-pillow, there is also a grab handle for entering and exiting the cab. Let's now look from the actual passenger seat of this vehicle looking inward. Let's talk about some of the components there. You can gain access to the climate control center just to the left-hand side, a component of switches, but let's break down some of the switches that are accessible for the passenger on this vehicle. In the white box, this is your David Clark push-to-talk headset system. In the silver button here, this is your siren brake. Moving forward of that location, you can see you have a parking brake just behind the protective cover here. Moving forward of that, this is going to be a barrel-style 12-volt access, which runs off of the battery. And moving just to the forward of that, this is going to be a port for your vehicle data recorder. Just inside or the center of this location, this was the climate control. You can see in the gray area, this is your heat and DEF, which is your defrost. This is also the heat in red and air conditioning in blue controls. Up above that location, this is going to be the load manager indicator lights. You have two future locations. You also have the 12-volt USB charger style flat and a spare switch also. Moving above the passenger's head, you can see you have a visor, and this swivel hook here allows you to lower the visor down. Located just in front of the passenger seat at the very ceiling level, this is going to be a very intense map reading light. There is an on-off switch for it, and it directs down right into the passenger's lap. Moving just above that, you're going to find the AM/FM, weather band, CD player, and MP3 player. This is wired through speakers throughout the cab area so that all occupants can listen to that stereo. This is just a close-up of that stereo here itself. It's also equipped with Sirius XM and the weather band, as I mentioned earlier. Let's go ahead and move just to the left of that same area over the passenger's head. There is a blank panel. This blank panel is for future devices that you choose to mount at a later time. Moving to the left-hand side of this, you're going to find a variety of different foam tank levels and water levels. Let's first start with the foam B tank, and that's on the right-hand side. And then you also have foam A, and then you also have your water tank. To the left of that, this is going to be an indication of your pump pressure. It's a digital readout while you're engaged in pumping and driving. In addition, located directly over the passenger's head, there is a red-white push-on, push-off light, in addition with the pull cord for your air horn. Congratulations on your new apparatus, Spokane Fire Department. If you have any questions as the content of this video or any questions, please direct those to your Hughes Fire associate. Congratulations and good luck with your new apparatus. Thank you.